Good morning and welcome to this week's IGTV. Today I'm talking about I swore I would parent differently. I feel like I'm reliving my childhood. Why is this happening when I said I was never going to do this? I hear so many courageous and caring parents say this exact statement to me, literally word for word. But I swore I would do this differently. And they are committed to breaking the cycle, making changes, call it whatever you want. We're going to say cycle breaking for today, okay? And yet, all of a sudden, or, a little bit at a time, like overnight, it's like, wait a minute, why am I saying the same things that I said I would never say? Why am I doing the same things I said I would never do with my kids? And it is really, really frustrating. I know, wow, from my own experience, when you set out and you make a promise to yourself, not just like a commit, like you promise yourself you are going to make these changes in your parenting, and yet they continue to show up. It's pretty hard at that point not to feel defeated, heartbroken, blame yourself. Like, why? Well, obviously, like, crap, I thought I was doing really well. Maybe I'm not a good parent. And just start questioning yourself, which lowers your confidence and doesn't help anything. So today we're going to talk about I swore I'd parent differently and the biggest trap of breaking the cycle that's got you probably repeating patterns you don't want to do and how to get out of that. So stay tuned. This is what I'm going to cover. My name is Allie Payne. I am a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach, one of the first 70 in Canada to hold both designations. I have been supporting and empowering parents of teens to end the baffling blow-ups, the stressful silences, and the very painful disconnection with their tweens, teens, and young adults for the last 16 years, I think I said that, and really unlearn what you learned and how to relearn what is research and science-based, backed, healthy relationship strategies that actually have you be the cycle breaker that you are more than capable of being. And I believe in you, and I get to see it with thousands of parents who have broken the cycle when they got the right support and the right tools. Okay, so let's dive into this for 1 second. Also, I guess I should say, I was a very troubled teen. Although I had my parents did an amazing job at creating incredible experiences on very little money for me. My relationship with them was really at odds a lot, all the time, to the point that my experience of it was very unhealthy and toxic. And that led me to some very poor choices and even a suicide attempt at 17. I really did not see a way out or a way to end my pain. I had tried talking to the adults. I tried using my words, like all that stuff. I even tried leaving the home, but there was nowhere I could find that I could live. And so it was that extreme for me. So I guess you can imagine, whether this is your story or not, maybe that's a bit extreme for you. I swore I would parent differently. I was going to break the cycle. Oh, I said it too. And then, so I knew I wanted to be different. So one of the specific things that I wanted to be different in my relationship with my kids was we were going to talk about emotions. We were going to make room for emotion. We weren't going to react to all the emotion. We weren't going to deny emotion. We weren't going to be required to shut it down and suppress it if it felt uncomfortable. We were going to allow emotion. And I think I did a pretty good job of that in the beginning. But here's where I kind of went off the rails with that, is when my children, God bless those two children, my sons, would behave in a way that I didn't like, or behave in a way that challenged my deeply ingrained and not correct perspective of what compliance and respect meant. I was raised, as many of you were, as were our parents, okay? Raised in a way where ultimate authority was the norm and immediate obedience was conflated incorrectly, was conflated with respect. Okay. So I would ask my kids to do something, and if they didn't immediately comply, my brain was triggered because my perception of being in control, my perception of being a good parent, my perception of all these other BS things that we all learned that we know now are not true, was really challenged. And so here I was breaking the cycle, and I would swear I was going to do this differently, and I was allowing emotion with my kids, and we were talking about hard emotion, and I still did timeouts, but not like alone in a room. I would sit with them, and we would just like talk through and like be in the emotion. Still could have done that a lot bit better, but whatever. So I'm in this, I'm going to break the cycle. Yeah, I swore I'd parent differently, and yeah, it wasn't happening. And this is the biggest trap. This is the biggest trap that so many parents, frustrated with themselves, which breaks my heart, deeply frustrated with themselves, feeling like they've broken their commitment to themselves and therefore also to their future children, to their child, when they swore they would parent differently, and yet they keep showing up in ways that are the same enough that they're like, no. So the biggest trap with this is believing that by saying, I don't care. I said it to myself when I was 12, 13, 14. I am not doing this to my kids. 15, 16, I'm like, this is wrong. I knew it was wrong. And I was not doing this to my kids. Yeah, well, there I was in my 30s doing the same thing. I was not physically violent or really emotionally abusive to my kids, but I was still doing similar things. Same but different flavor. You know what I mean? Same but different brand. You know what I'm saying? So when you say this and then you believe, you say, I swear I'm going to parent differently, and then you truly believe, that's all it takes. That's the biggest trap. That is the biggest trap of being a cycle breaker, and the thing that is likely to hook you up and have you believe it's not possible. The thing that is going to derail your beautiful and courageous intention, which I have great admiration and respect for, because I'm going to tell you right now, breaking a cycle is not for the faint of heart. Like, put on your parenting panties, because here we go. Raising a teen is not for the faint of heart either. And so you believe that because you had the intention and made that commitment to yourself, that's all that's required. And then it doesn't happen, and you're like, well, see, this whole gentle parenting thing is BS, like all this respectful parenting thing, it doesn't work. So I did that too. Here's the reason it doesn't work. Is because you can have an intention to do a lot of things. You can have an intention to be a billionaire. You can have an intention to start 20 businesses. You can have an intention to raise billionaires. You can have an intention to have a dream car. You can have all the intention that you want. That's not how unlearning works. The intention needs to be added to a couple things, okay? Here's some key ingredients. There's 3 or 4 of them, okay? The key ingredients. Number 1, your intention needs to be added to immersion. Immersion in a different way, a new way. Immersion such that you are partaking in journaling, reading, conversation therapy, some kind of supportive change mechanism that is, of course, research-based, backed by science, that you are immersing yourself in that sufficiently with consistency, immersion and consistency, that it is enough to begin to overwrite the very, very deeply ingrained previous parenting patterns and messages that you learned as a child that, like it or not, are running in your unconscious brain and derailing your intention, because that is how our brains are wired, is to repeat what we learned and we know, even if you say, I don't want this, I hate this, I don't want to do this. So you're working against yourself, okay? And thinking that this intention is enough to rewrite this entire complex frame of normal that took years to form. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have immersion, okay? Immersion in new or different, okay? Then in the immersion part, you need to be able to have processing. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's talking. It's not just doing. You have to be able to process how that new or different is going to overlay what you learned, and be able to process how is that different? That feels awkward. Ask questions to really take this new and different information, strategies, etc., that you are immersing yourself in. Now you need to be able to effectively process them. Unfortunately, believe it or not, you actually do not process and rewrite neural pathways just by reading books or listening to podcasts or watching social media. You may be intaking and immersing yourself, but that's only step one. You are not, in fact, processing that information with an expert or professional support such that it is enough to unlearn your normal in your unconscious brain, in your nervous system that is running the show, and replace that with the new and different learning that you're getting, because you need to have your executive function has to kick in so that you are excavating one, processing the differences, and then replacing it with the new. I know I'm touching my brain all over the place. It's not like we're actually like taking part of your brain out, okay? So there is immersion, but then there is effective processing with, again, an expert or professional, so that your executive function, which is where learning is happening, same with your team, your executive function is partaking in the process. So you're processing and finding out how these new coping strategies and tools, etc., work for you. What do they mean? You've got to be able to ask questions. You've got to be able to try. Now, so there's the processing part. Then there's the trying it out part. And I'm going to tell you for sure, it's a hot mess. Not because you are a hot mess, but trying anything new is messy. So you need to be, so it's a 3-step process that has to go on in an immersive type environment, okay? So you are learning and immersing yourself. Then you've got to have that safe and effective way to constantly process, chew on, to be replacing. Then you've got to have a safe container where you can go and try, actually start to shift your behavior, okay? And have that safety. So safety is required for learning. Emotional safety, psychological safety is required for learning. So that safe container where you are trying some of these new skills, these new coping strategies, this new stuff, where you can check back with, again, encouraging, empathetic, and safe expertise, professional support, where you try the new behavior and then go, okay, I think this worked, because now it has to go back to the processing. So it's immersion, processing, behavior, go try it, and then you go back, and that is the feedback cycle. That is the feedback cycle in your brain and how you learn. And that is why, again, I can't say this enough, if the intention of breaking the cycle, and I swore I'd parent differently, is actually not sufficient, and it will only end up having you question yourself, which breaks my heart, because attention alone isn't doing it. Now, that's how the learning process works, which, by the way, is exactly how I have set up my signature programs with my proven 3-step system that is all research-based, backed by science, and available for months and months and months in a private community where I show up every day and I do live Q&As, and it is a safe and judgment-free environment, so that you have these 3 factors, okay? The immersion, the processy part, and then the behavioral, go try it, come back. Now, that's not all. That's not all. There are 3 buckets. This is the next part of why you might have hit a wall with generational cycles and being a cycle breaker and now questioning yourself and believing it's not true. There's 3 buckets you must be aware of, okay? And this is a secondary kind of part of the learning process that is required for change. Also same with your teenager, just saying. Number 1 is awareness. You have to have the awareness of all these unconscious patterns and be building the awareness of the patterns so that you can begin to change the pattern. You can't change anything you're not aware of, right? So when gorgeous parents come to me, they're already aware of something that they aren't comfortable with, don't like, isn't working for them. They have their awareness has started. So part of an effective learning process is a process that helps you safely, I cannot emphasize safe enough, safely unfold your awareness in layer after layer, like peeling an onion, right? So that your awareness is deepening of where you learn things, what they mean to you, and that you can shift that awareness. Now, that's bucket number 1. So in the change process, building awareness, and again, this is bucket number 1. So maybe you're doing that by reading books and listening to podcasts and watching social media, etc. That's awesome. Building that awareness, okay, is bucket number 1. Now, here's the frustrating part of when you get to the top of that bucket and it's going to fill, okay? The frustrating part is you're like, you are changing your awareness, but you're not yet seeing the change in your behavior. That's frustrating. That's super frustrating. And it's really easy to dog yourself, to beat yourself up, get down on yourself because you are building this awareness bucket, you're filling it, but you're not yet seeing the change in your behavior. And again, when you understand that that is a necessary part of change, with a professional, what I'm hoping is that you are a little more compassionate with yourself, that you're still in the process. So you fill the awareness bucket to the top, okay? And then it overflows. And it overflows into the next bucket, which is your behavior. So now your behavior begins to change, okay? So slowly, because it's a hot mess, you are not a hot mess, but the change process is a hot mess. And you're going to feel like I hate this word, but get it wrong a lot of times, or you're not seeing the results that you want. Because after the awareness bucket fills and it starts to overflow into the behavior bucket, the behavior bucket, as it slowly fills, is when you are putting that 3-step learning process to work and your behavior is becoming more streamlined, more consistent, and you are finding your way within research-based, science-backed tools and strategies. You're finding your words. You're finding what feels authentic. You're finding what feels right, your own jam, your rhythm, your pattern to it, okay? Because, of course, at first, you're going to follow scripts probably and use someone else's tools because that's what works, right? To start. And then you slowly start finding your way. Now, you're filling the behavior bucket, but you're still not seeing a change in your teenager. And this is exactly where people back away and say, see, I told you, this is all crap. It's a load of BS and it doesn't work. And that literally breaks my heart because you must work to fill your awareness bucket to overflow into changing your behavior bucket, not for perfect, because we're not aiming for perfect. We're aiming for consistency and then I guess a version of mastery. That also is not perfect. Mastery is you can go with the flow of things a little more because you're really familiar with and have ingrained the tools enough in you to know how to adapt and whether it's perfect or not. Because if you're looking for perfect, you're in the wrong place. I'm just going to tell you that right now, okay? But you're still not seeing the change in your teenager. And that's when people walk away. And you filled almost 2 full buckets and people walk away. Once you fill that behavior bucket, your behavior bucket is when it overflows into the third bucket, which is where you begin to see your teenager change. Did you get the part where you have to fill 2 buckets first? And then you begin to see your teenager's behavior change. Their response to your behavior begins to be more like what people are espousing on social media or in books or podcasts. And you're like, are you kidding me? You want me to do all that first? Yes, because you're the leader in the relationship. You are setting the tone. Your teenager's brain isn't developed enough to lead. And so, yes, that is what it's required. So it takes you to fill those first 2 buckets before you begin to see the bucket of your teenager's behavior change, which is where you begin to notice the shift in your relationship with them. Okay. Now, does that mean, and this is another big trap of changing the cycle and saying whether it works or not, whether, respectful parenting, gentle parenting, I call it whatever you want. I prefer respectful parenting. I think gentle parenting sounds a little bit too much permissive, even though at its root it's not. And so it gets a bad rap. Your teenager's behavior is going to begin to change. Is it going to be perfect? No, because they're not a robot. They're not an automaton. Okay. It's going to be a hot mess. They are not a hot mess. But the change process that's going on within you is now going on in your relationship dynamic. But you will begin to see and notice points of connection and their behavior begin to change. You will feel calmer and more confident. They will be calmer. And you will have more interaction at a level that perhaps you didn't have. You will probably feel more respected. They will feel more heard. Your trust level goes up. Your comfort level with having hard or emotional conversations that perhaps you were never raised being allowed to have will go up. Your teenager will begin to share more things with you. So this is the third bucket. Now, again, does it mean that once you fill the first 2 and you begin to see the change in your behavior in your teen that you're done? Like, well, okay. Woo! I'm done. Check. No, there's no done. Okay? You are still building mastery over here in the first bucket of awareness and the second bucket of behavior as your teenager is now adjusting. Because when any one person in a relationship changes, it fundamentally changes the relationship. So your teenager's behavior is not like a mirror. It's not a complete reflection of whether you are passing or failing. Get rid of that belief. It is a reflection of the change in your relationship. So when you think like, okay, I'm done now, everything's great, and then your teenager makes a really crappy choice, maybe makes a big mistake, does it mean it's all for naught? Nothing worked. You're a failure. See, I told you, this is BS. No, because relationships aren't perfect. And we're not dealing with a math equation here. Relationships are a hot mess and they make algebra look simple. You're not in direct control of your teenager. But as you continue to be more and more consistent and build mastery, your teenager's behavior and the way they participate in their relationship with you, not maybe the rest of their life, but with you, does begin to become more consistent. And because you're building mastery, you are also learning what it takes to adapt and flow with what they're going to throw at you, because they will. So those are the 3 buckets of change. Is you have to build your awareness sufficiently to change your behavior sufficiently that you begin to see some of this, the impact, not the direct reflection, okay? The impact of the work you're doing in your relationship with your teenager, okay? So how long does this take? I love that question, Monique. So we can prove that we used to think that habits were changed in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And, now I think the science of it is more about 120 days-ish, which is 4 months. And that's why with my signature program, you get 4 months access to my private parenting community where I'm there every day and I'm doing live Q&As. But in the meantime, let's go back to the first 3 things that are required to actually change, right? You need to continue to immerse yourself continue immersing yourself. You need to continue actively participating in processing that information, whatever that looks like for you. Might be, writing in my private community, or journaling, or talking it out with your co-parent or a friend. You've got to be actively participating in the immersion, and then in the processing, and actively participating in the behavior and making things different, even when it feels like it's a hot mess. So this is an active thing, you see, and this is why I wanted to do this video, because an intention, as powerful as that might be, and all the videos where we say, oh, just set a strong intention and power of attraction and it'll just work. An intention, I swore I would parent differently. I was going to be the cycle breaker. I was going to make this different. That is a passive thing. I swore I'd parent differently is passive. It is not active. And all of the things, the 3 things, okay, that it actually required to break the cycle, which I talked about, and then the how change actually works, the 3 buckets of change, those are all active. Those are all very active. That is what is required to break the cycle. And will it ever be perfect? No, it won't. You, gorgeous, caring parent, are likely going to break cycles that were painful to you or meaningful to you in some way that you want to break them. You're not going to break them all. You don't take generations of stuff and break it generally on one person. It happens over generations. But you know what you are doing by taking this on and taking an active role in this? Do you know what you are doing? You are setting one of the most powerful examples for your children of compassion for yourself in any change process without expecting perfection. You are showing them the power of consistency. You are showing them the power of vulnerability and being willing to try new things even when you don't feel like you know what you're doing yet or it doesn't feel comfortable. The power of vulnerability to try new things, to be in a change process. You are showing them the power of vulnerability of asking for help with a professional or an expert, and that doesn't make you weak. And in fact, that is actually required for the change process. You are showing them that it is okay to not need to be in control or have power over people to create a healthy relationship with them. You are changing their lives and the way that they will perceive primary or meaningful relationships by your active participation in breaking the cycle. And this is what I've had the absolute privilege to do with thousands of parents over the last 16 years, along with my own children, who are both young adults now, and two of the most incredible and amazing human beings that I know. They are emotionally intelligent, they self-advocate, they set boundaries with me. They say what doesn't work for them, respectfully, because we've had years of mentorship. We have respect, we have open and honest communication. They come to me when there's challenges. We joke around, we can poke like compassionate fun at each other and have light banter. I have the relationship with my kids that is the relationship I dreamed of, but not just because of me. I also allowed them to lead as they got older, and what was the relationship they wanted, and what kind of parent did they need me to be, not just relive my childhood through them. Know what I mean? If this sounds like something that you have either tried and gotten stuck in one of those processes, and you are still committed and have a powerful intention to courageously take this on, then once I get this posted here on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook and etc., type support below and I will send you the link for my free masterclass with my proven 3-step system so you can get started right away. I believe in you. Cycle breaking is not for the faint of heart. And I know when you have the right tools and the right support, you absolutely can make the changes that are most important to you. I believe in you. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye.